Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today a legend returns to the channel. In today's video, we see the return of my perfect IV unobtainable legacy quick attack Starmie, but now instead of level 40, it's been powered all the way up to level 51. At level 51, Starmie maxes out at 2957 CP, and due to the fact that it's not a meta-relevant Pokemon whatsoever and the low CP, people tend to underestimate the Starmie, and that can get them one shot. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Starmie in action in the Master Premier Cup. Hopping into the first match, picking up a terrible lead Dragonite into Avalugg. I save switch into Starmie, and my opponent responds with a Waterfall Gyarados. Starmie farming up, going for the Thunder. Thunder connects and one-shots the Gyarados. Opponent now gonna send in Excadrill. Excadrill looking to overfarm, and I'm able to make it to an Ice Beam. Ice Beam into the Exca does get the shield. Opponent, no shielded one-charge move. They are not gonna make that mistake again. But the good news is, I've gotten switch advantage, which is exactly what I needed to happen, as now the Dragonite, instead of being stuck against the Avalugg, is aligned against the Exca. Exca fires off the Rock Slide, Exca continuing to farm, in comes Avalugg, and now I get to bring in my own Exca. 2 Rock Slides should be enough to KO here, so I'm going to fire off the first. Opponent is going to let that through as they know they're able to tank 1. Avalanche would do a lot of damage, so I will respect it with a shield. Opponent does full send the Avalanche. That's quite big. I'm looking to farm up and fire off the Rock Slide. This will be lethal, so that's decision time for my opponent. They're trusting in their Exca. They're firing off a move, but I can shield this, go for my Drill Run to get the final shield, and I am very close to a superpower on my Dragonite, and my switch clock should be up soon. So I fire off the Drill Run, switch in the Dragonite, and make it to the superpower. Dragonite takes down the Excadrill, and that is a good game. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Dragonite versus Gholdengo. Gholdengo is of course the new meta threat in the Master League, and Gholdengo is a core breaker for this team as it does very well against both the Dragonite and the Starmie. So I'm forced to stay in here with the Dragonite and just try and do as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, whatever I throw is going to be single resisted here. I fire off the Dragon Claw, Gholdengo able to tank that, no problem. And this is risky, but I'm actually going to double shield the Dragonite. I need to get rid of the Gholdengo, and hopefully my opponent is going to start giving those shields back. So I fire off the Dragon Claw. This would be lethal. Opponent commits the shield, and I'm going for Dragon Claw number 2. If my opponent wants to use this energy, they have to commit the second shield, and they do. And honestly, that works out quite nicely for me. They're going to fire off the Shadow Ball. All shields are down. My opponent is going to get the Hex down. But now I can send in Exca and look to farm down. My opponent is now going to send in Avalugg, and I'm going for the Rock Slide. I have the energy lead here on the Exca. Rock Slide, as we've seen, does quite a bit of damage to the Avalugg. Avalugg, unfortunately with shields down, will be able to connect with the Avalanche, and that is nearly able to KO. I make it to the Rock Slide. I'm actually going to undercharge this because I want Starmie to get energy. I'm going to send in Starmie, looking for the quick attack farm down, hoping that Starmie will be good versus whatever they have in the back. They're able to make it to a last second move. They do make it to the Avalanche, even resisted. That does so much damage. We'll have to see. We know they have the very low health Gholdengo. It's a Gyarados in the back, and I can farm up to 100 energy, going for the Thunder. Goodbye, Gyarados. In comes the Gholdengo, and we make Thunder number 2. Starmie taking down Gholdengo and securing the win. We see mirror leads in the next match, Dragonite versus Dragonite. I'm going to farm up to the Dragon Claw and then look to catch onto Starmie. So I farm up to the Dragon Claw, switch and catch a Dragon Claw onto the Starmie. My hope is that they're then going to send in a Gyarados that I can potentially one-shot. But they're staying in with the Dragonite, farming up a ton of energy, and now they send in Snorlax, and I can just do absolutely nothing here. Look how little damage that Thunder does. Snorlax is so bulky at level 50, I just can't do anything there. That's quite unfortunate. I'm going to wait my timer, and then I'm going to send in Dragonite. Dragonite, unfortunately, is going to be hit with a Body Slam here from the Snorlax. Snorlax not going to be able to KO with the Body Slam, but it will get the Dragonite low. Dragonite is going to farm up to the back-to-back superpowers, and I'm going for superpower number 1. Superpower will KO. I leave with a move. I go for the Dragon Claw, but unfortunately my opponent sent in a Metagross instead. I send in Exca. My opponent sends in Dragonite, and I'm in a tough spot here. I'm down on energy. I think I have to call a bait, And I do. Okay, maybe there's a chance. I was able to successfully no-shield the Dragon Claw. Maybe that can allow me to win this game. I fire off the Rock Slide, that's gonna get the shield. Opponent is gonna look to start grabbing my shields, and at this point, they can just go straight Dragon Claw. They don't have to worry about a superpower. I'm looking to overfarm quite a bit, firing off the Rock Slide here, and Rock Slide would be lethal. My opponent has to commit the shield. They're firing off a move. This will grab my final shield. I just have to avoid them catching if at all possible. I'm gonna farm up with the Exca, watching for the catch, and thankfully, they do not get it. I'm able to Rock Slide here. That KOs the Dragonite. In comes the Metagross. Metagross will be hit with the Drill Run, but this is not enough to KO. Drill Run will get them low. I have to switch into the Dragonite. Dragonite Dragon Breath down as we escape with the win. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Dragonite into Mamoswine. I just have to save switch into Starmie and hope that they eventually switch out. Mamo farms up a ton of energy and then sends in Gyarados. Do they know? They do not! Thunder connects, and down goes Gyarados. My opponent is going to send back in the Mamoswine. I'm not going to shield here. At this point, Starmie has done its job. Opponent baits with an Avalanche. That is not going to cut it, and I'm able to make it to the Ice Beam. My guess is this is going to draw a shield, as they saw their Gyarados get one shot, so they do not want to underestimate Starmie again. The unfortunate thing is that this Mamo has so much energy loaded. I commit the shield, opponent baits with an Avalanche, and that's a bit tough. I farm up, go for the Drill Run, and I win CMP. This is quite nice, but they have so much energy. They are going to shield because they need to inflict damage onto my Exca here. They fire off a move, it's the Avalanche, and this is tough. My opponent goes for a charge move. This is not a high horsepower. I believe this is only an Avalanche, so I'm able to take it, looking to farm. Opponent sends in Metagross, and honestly, that is a bit of a misplay by my opponent and gives me an opportunity to win this game. I'm able to land a Drill Run on the Metagross, which is damage I desperately needed, and now I can just farm down with the Dragonite and leave with a superpower to get rid of the Mamoswine. Dragonite tanks the Meteor Mash, gets the farm down, and leaves with the superpower. So despite the terrible lead, Dragonite slams the door, and that's a good game. The bad leads continue in the next match, Dragonite into Avalugg. As before, I'm going to need to immediately save switch into Starmie and hope that this Avalugg is not running Crunch. They switch out right away and they bring in Machamp. This is the one time that I wish I was running Psychic, but my opponent is going to respect it with a shield nevertheless. Starmie getting torn to shreds by resisted counters. This thing, as I mentioned, is not tanky whatsoever. They go for the Rock Slide to get the KO. I'm looking to get a big farm down here with Dragonite. Dragonite commits the shield, and my opponent gets an amazing bait, as now this is going to allow them to force both shields. I will double shield, but that's because I can superpower the Avalugg and potentially get that shield back, or inflict a lot of damage. In comes the Avalugg, I fire off the superpower. This will deal quite a bit of damage. Opponent lets it through. I send in Exca. In the back, they have Garchomp. And Garchomp, thankfully, is Dragon Tail. And Dragon Tail Garchomp is a lot worse versus Exca. I'm able to land the Drill Run and their Sand Tomb. This is actually quite good for me. They don't have Earth Power. Sand Tomb does hit for super effective, but Sand Tomb does not do a lot of damage. I'm able to fire off the Drill Run here. Drill Run gets the shield, and that's a misplay by my opponent. My opponent goes for a move, and suddenly they've given me a win con. Had they saved their shields for Avalugg, they would have won the game, but they didn't. This sets up Dragonite to farm all the way down, leave with the superpower, and that will win the game as superpower takes down the Avalugg, and that's game over. Picking up a pretty nice lead in the next match, Dragonite going up against Excadrill. Now, Exca is of course able to outpace, but the big difference maker in this matchup is that Dragonite can tank a move. Rock Slide, Dragonite's able to tank, whereas Exca definitely cannot afford to tank a superpower. So I go straight for it, grab an early shield advantage, and send in Starmie. They're staying in, firing off a Drill Run. I decide to commit the shield. I'm still hoping they're going to switch out and send in a Flyer. Continue to farm up, opponent staying in, so you know what? I'm going to go for the Ice Beam. Ice Beam will hit for neutral damage against Exca, and Exca commits a shield. That is a bit unfortunate. Tough call to make here. I decide to let it go. Drill Run does so much damage. Farming up with the Starmie, making it to the Ice Beam, and the opponent catches onto Ursaluna. Now that will hit for super effective damage, but Ursaluna has a ton of bulk. This is a bit awkward. I'm going to send in Dragonite, farm up some energy here, switch and catch the Thunder Punch onto Excadrill, where it's going to be double resisted. Let's go. And now I can look to overfarm quite a bit with my Exca. I farm up, fire off the Drill Run. This, of course, will be lethal, and then we'll have to see what my opponent has in the back. They do, of course, have their own Exca, which did lead with energy, and they're going to be able to grab my final shield here. So I will commit the shield on my Exca, look to potentially overfarm, and then fire off the Drill Run. This, of course, will get the KO. It all depends what my opponent has in the back as their final Pokemon. They have Florges. This is going to come down to a catch. They're 3 off the Moonblast. I'm predicting they're going to throw 3, wait a turn, and then throw, but they throw right away. So I threw 3, I waited a turn, but my opponent did not. Moonblast will KO, and unfortunately, I can go for the superpower on the CMP tie, but it's not going to be enough to KO. Florges able to hang on as we lose a very close game. We see another mirror match in the next game, Dragonite versus Dragonite. Same game plan as before. I'm going to farm up to the Dragon Claw and try and make a catch onto my Starmie. So I farm up, switch into the Starmie, and again we are able to get the Dragon Claw catch. That is quite nice. We'll have to see what my opponent decides to do. They're staying in with the Dragonite. Not what I was hoping to see. And now they send in Golden Go. And Golden Go is just so bad for Starmie. Like, what the heck am I supposed to do here? I go for the Thunder. They get the farm down. And I'm going to send in my Exca. This is only enough for a Shadow Ball. I believe it is 1 more to the Focus Blast, but I will still respect it with a shield, as even a Shadow Ball does a lot. I'm going to farm up, go for the Drill Run, and I'm very close to the back-to-back moves here. So I fire off the Drill Run. Golden Go is going to let that through. In the back, they have a Chandelure, and this is not great for me. I fire off the Drill Run. I'm going to throw 1 Mud Shot, switch into Dragonite to defer the Incinerate, and my opponent is going to send in their own Dragonite. I decide to commit the final shield here. I want to try and keep my Dragonite alive if at all possible. I don't have the back-to-back moves, but I am very close. I fire off the Dragon Claw, that's going to KO. In comes the Chandelure, and I'll go for the Dragon Claw right before they make it to their move. Dragon Claw is going to get no-shielded, and now I just have to commit to a farm down. They're going to KO with the Flame Charge. The question is, can Exca Mud Shot down? Yes, it can. We see a terrible lead in the next match, Dragonite into Florges. I save switch into Starmie, hoping my opponent decides to switch out, but my opponent does not fall for my trap, and they're just going to stay in with Florges. This is an incredibly good matchup for Florges. Look how much damage that Moonblast did. So they can just stay in here with Florges, tank the Ice Beam, and commit to the farm down, as I will fall just short of making it to another charge move. I'm going to send in Exca, but I'm in a very uncomfortable situation here. They're going to fire off a charge move. It is another Moonblast, and that deals quite a bit of damage. I farm up with Exca, and Exca is going to fire off the Drill Run. Drill Run should be enough to KO the Florges. We'll have to see what my opponent has. They have Mud Shot, Garchomp. I bank a Drill Run for later, send in the Dragonite, and I'm met with Mamoswine. Oh, this is not good whatsoever. I will commit the shield. They go for the Avalanche, and I need to farm up to the back-to-back Dragon Claws. I unfortunately don't farm up quite enough to make it to the back-to-back, but I will be able to grab a first shield here, and then as they go for the farm down, I do make it to the superpower. So this will grab the final shield. My opponent has a ton of energy on the Mamoswine, but I can deny the energy by winning CMP with the Excadrill. So this is what it's going to come down to. Can the Garchomp make it to double Earth Power before I make it to double Drill Run? They do have an energy lead, and I think, unfortunately, I'm going to lose this game. I commit the shield, farming up with the Exca, making it to the back-to-back moves, but I lose CMP. Such a close game, but Garchomp gets the win. Hopping to the final match, we see one final mirror lead, Dragonite versus Dragonite. Their Dragonite is shiny, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, mine is only the regular. As before, I'm going to farm up, switch, and then catch the Dragon Claw onto my Starmie. Dragon Claw will still deal a ton of damage. My opponent sends in a Shadow Gyarados. Come on, we're farming up. We're going for the Thunder. Do they respect the damage? They do! Opponent familiar with the Starmie, they commit the shield. And that is incredibly unfortunate for me. Oh, you absolutely hate to see it. I'm going to farm up a ton of energy with my Dragonite. I'm hoping that since they're Shadow, this Dragon Claw will be lethal. Dragon Claw leaves them with a fraction of HP, but unfortunately, they do make it to a charge move. It's the Outrage. I commit the shield. My opponent has a Shadow Metagross in the back. I'm firing off the superpower to get some chip damage, and then it's Exca time. In comes Exca. Exca getting a nice energy lead. Opponent tries to go for the catch onto the Dragonite. They fail it, and that's just going to be game over at this point. I go for the Rock Slide. They let it through, and they resign the match. All in all, I had an absolute blast running Unobtainable Legacy Quick Attack Starmie. Managed to get it all the way to level 51, and even though it doesn't even reach 3000 CP, it can still output a lot of damage onto those Gyarados. As I mentioned at the beginning, Starmie is by no means a meta Pokemon whatsoever. Unless it's in a matchup where it can hit for double super effective, it gets absolutely destroyed, but that's part of the fun of it, is using a Pokemon that catches people off guard and potentially causes them to make a mistake. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.